Welcome to Beyond Sight, the BISM Podcast. I'm your host, Quali Ford, and I am ready to take you on this journey through discovering the stories, the impact, and the empowerment that is found within our wonderful blind community here at BISM and beyond. This podcast is sponsored by donors like you, listeners like you, so please subscribe, like the podcast, and continue to join me on this journey. Let's jump right in. Hello, one and all, and welcome back to the Beyond Sight BISM Podcast. I am super excited to be here with a wonderful individual, a man who is the president of Blind Industries and Services of Maryland, Dr. Michael Gosse. Woo!
Well, thanks, Qualik, and you're going to call me Mike for the rest of the show.
Yes.
Because I'm just one of the gang.
That you are. You do a very good job of making sure that we know that you're there for us and that you're a part of the team. So we really appreciate that here. So, Mike, what is your life story? How did you get to be the president of Blind Industries and Services of Maryland?
Ooh, that's a long story. I'm going to have to shorten that a little bit.
I believe in you.
Okay. Because, as I've told people a number of times, I never set out to be the president of anything, and I kept getting to be president for things. It started off really back in engineering school at University of Connecticut, studying electrical engineering. I wanted to be a mad scientist, so I never made it to that. But
dang it.
as I moved through, opportunities presented themselves. And the first one was becoming president of my honor society, Engineering Honor Society. I think it was one of those situations where everybody stepped back and I was the one standing out front still, so I got to be president. A lot of my experience in leadership comes from the National Federation of the Blind, student division, state affiliate president in Connecticut and in Maryland as well. But as I was working through my career, and those were my extracurricular activities, I was developing business skills. I started my own company after working in the military-industrial complex for a while and just felt like I wasn't contributing the best that I could. And started my own company. And it's odd that as a blind person, I felt I needed to contribute more to that company than my partners. I felt I had to be just one step above. So I was very involved in the finances of the company. Actually, with the help of the National Federation of the Blind, I brought the initial capital to that company. I was doing all the negotiating contracts and things like that, building those experiences, but driven by the fact that I thought I needed to do more because I was a blind person. And in the end, I had a dispute with my partners, and it was evident that they felt the same thing, that they felt that I wasn't as capable because I was a blind person. But that was a learning experience for me in developing that whole set of skills that I might need. Then, of course, I continued working for myself. I like working for myself. I don't know what it is. I enjoy having that autonomy. So when I think about my path here at BISM, which was through the Board of Trustees for a number of years, getting to know this operation inside and out, our mission and our people, and then coming on to staff as the Director of Accessibility, promoting that vision from within. And the opportunity arose when Fred retired that I had built up those skills, and I put myself forward there because I thought it was the best thing for BISM, was to have somebody who was blind, who knew the finances, who knew the mission, and who lived some of the experiences that our associates have had.
That is really important because when this podcast airs, we will be in the heart of Blindness Achievement Equality Month, a month that really highlights all of the wonderful contributions that members of the blind community have made, not only to the blind community, but to the world at large. And when you talk about being someone who continued to step up, continued to recognize that your leadership was needed, but also having that drive and wanting to work as hard or even harder than people you were working with to prove that you were capable. That is something that we as blind people face all the time. And that is really one of my favorite parts about your leadership style, is that you're always acknowledging the work we're doing to change lives, and you're always acknowledging the importance of each and every associate. And I think that comes from understanding the mission and understanding how important it is for BISM to employ blind people, which is a big part of what we do. You said it yourself. You never really set out to be a president, but yet you are, and you are doing a wonderful job of that.
Thank you.
Why do you think it is so important to have a blind president? You got into it a little bit, but I want to dig into it some more.
I think that we as an organization, BISM, needs more representation at all levels of the organization. And I think a lot of our leadership, as much as they understand the mission, can't relate to the mission as well, no matter where their heart is. Having a blind president closes that gap, gives them the opportunity to see leadership at all levels, being in the room to remind people when we start thinking more business-like and not mission-like is critical for us. Now, we have to be successful in the business, absolutely, but there is always a decision to make about the mission, and we need to make sure that that's part of every discussion. And that's my role as a president who's blind. It also projects to the rest of organizations like us that the president can be a blind person, be successful, manage all the issues that a CEO has to be aware of and take care of, and at the same time, elevate all of the associates in our organization. And that's important to me. I think you know that from when I stand up in my quarterly all calls and I talk about how we're promoting individuals. It's important that other organizations, particularly in the Ability One umbrella, NIB, understand that the CEO, as a blind person, has a responsibility to reach down into their organizations and make sure there's opportunities for everybody to grow.
Right. That is very important. So, were you always like this, Mike? Were you always so passionate about blindness and comfortable with your blindness? Was that something that just came with the territory for you?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. No.
I mean, let's be honest here. I grew up not knowing any other blind people. All the cliches. Land of the blind, one-eyed man is king. That was my father's favorite saying to me. And I didn't meet or engage with any other successful blind people until the National Federation of the Blind offered me a scholarship in my junior year in college. I was very pleased with what I was accomplishing as an individual, but I'd already experienced some direct discrimination, or you might call it lower expectations, particularly in the sciences and in the engineering. So I would certainly not put blindness forward, right? I would not say, oh, by the way, I'm a blind guy coming into your physics class because of the pushback I thought I might get. The pushback I did get in my chemistry class where the professor didn't want a blind person in her lab. The ironic story there was she had a child who was blind or low vision.
Oh, wow.
I never got the true details there. And the second semester of being in her chemistry lab, she actually came into the lab. I was working independently on an experiment, and she said, oh, can I help you? And I thought, oh, this will be fun. So I said, sure. The next step is to take this copper wire and put it into a ball and shove it into this test tube. And so she said, oh, yeah, I can help you with that. Now think about it. That's probably the easiest, most tactile thing you could possibly do. And I let her do that part, and then I continued on to do the rest of the experiment. And it was when I was bringing my glassware back to check it back in. You checked your glassware out. If you broke it, you had to pay for it. So they checked it in and checked it out. And she was the person collecting the glassware back in at the end of the thing. And that's when I found out that her son was blind. And she was, wow, I was really impressed with your work in the lab. And never had a problem with her again, never had her do such a silly task as ball up some copper and shove it in a chest tube after that.
Yeah.
But that was still the era where I felt I needed to do more. That's partly why I went for a PhD, partly why I would step up for things like dorm treasurer and other things. But it wasn't until I realized that I wasn't the only person experiencing that. Back to your question about, was I always this gung-ho about blindness? That I learned through the NFB that there were blind professionals doing what I was trying to do and more, that they were being successful just being themselves. And there was an opportunity to break down those misconceptions that even blind people were holding for themselves.
Yeah. That is an awesome story. To think that you had a whole 180 experience with a teacher, them being like, no, I don't want you in my class, to being like, hey, actually, you may do this really well. I think it does speak to a larger concept, which is that a lot of people aren't exposed to blindness, and a lot of people don't know what it is like to be blind. There's a lot of fear around it. One of the things that BISM does is to give out information about blindness, to help people understand. That's why we're doing this podcast. That's why our communications teams work so hard to try to promote the idea that blind people are competent, they're capable, because we are. That is most evident when you walk into BISM. The first person you meet is blind. As you walk through the halls, you're meeting blind people. You're seeing blind people every day. I have to laugh because one day I was walking down the hallway. It was right before our summer program this summer. And if you don't know about our summer programs, you should listen to episode 2 of this wonderful podcast. Quick plug, had to do it. And I was walking down and I was carrying a bunch of boxes, and the director of our department was doing an interview with someone, and he tells me this story later because he's like, we are in a room that has a window that's facing the hallway, and they can see you carrying a bunch of boxes, and they're like, is he blind? And he's like, yup. And it was just really funny because he just like, you were just going back and forth, grabbing more stuff and more stuff. It takes a lot to run a summer program. Yep. and it's just really, those moments of when you can open up the eyes of the public is super important. And that leads me into, again, bringing back up Blindness Achievement Equality Month. So why is this important? Why should we recognize the powerful things that blind people are doing? And why do more people need to know about that?
We have an opportunity every day, every time we go out of this building or we go out of our apartment, as you said earlier, to embrace our blindness, be comfortable in our own blindness. What we don't have the ability to do is to every day project that to the community that doesn't interact with us. So blindness, you'll have to tell me what we're calling it this time. Blindness Achievement and Awareness Month.
Blindness Achievement Equality Month.
Equality Month.
Yep.
Blindness Achievement and Equality Month gives us an opportunity to focus on it, to focus on our outreach. We have 11 months a year where we have to just go about living our lives the way we want. But in this particular month, special effort given to bringing the rest of the community into our world. Now, here at BISM, what we're doing is, like you just mentioned, if you're in our house and you see us doing what we do every day, that changes minds right away. Now, a lot of people will come in and have a tour, and they'll be all about, wow, that was amazing. And I know that what we think of it is that's expected. That's just typical. So we want to move them forward, but we want to change their experience with blindness. And when you go through an entire tour here at BISM, you see people learning those skills. You see people who don't have those skills yet. You see people who are doing jobs that other people would be afraid to do or didn't even think they could personally do, and blind people are doing them. And that's why it's important for us to bring the community here. That's what we do. Other events during this particular month, just showing blind people out and about doing their daily stuff. We have partnered a little bit with the local NFB chapter that will be out manning the water stop at the Baltimore Marathon. A lot of our BISM associates go and work at that water stop because, first of all, it's fun. Second of all, it's a community, a huge community that never would see a blind person doing anything out of the ordinary. And manning a water stop is out of the ordinary. We're here in our building, and we have several tours that are happening in October. By the time this podcast is out there, we'll have had the Greater Baltimore Committee. They're in charge of like planning the future of industry in Baltimore, and they will come and tour this facility. We'll get to know them. We'll have the opportunity to discuss some of the issues that are important to blind people, important to BISM, and important to Baltimore, because we're part of it. We're part of the community, and that's what's important for people to know. We contribute to the community. We also happen to have a bunch of blind people here working or learning how the skills of blindness.
Yeah. That's a really important point. We are a part of the community. All of us are Baltimoreans or live somewhere close to Baltimore here in the state of Maryland. And then, of course, we have our associates on the Eastern Shore, Western Maryland, and even outside of the state. So it's very important to note that blind people aren't looking to silo themselves. We're a part of the community. We go to the grocery stores. We go to the movies. We like to do a lot of the same things that everyone else likes to do. And I think that sometimes there's this idea, I don't even think it, I know I know that there's this idea that, oh, blind people only hang out with blind people, or blind people only know blind people. And that's not true. And it is a really powerful moment when we have staff come in and giving other people tours, and they're showing them around. I work in our ITR departments and working in our adult programs and our youth programs, and being able to tell people what we do. And then also being able to see people after they've come from production and they've seen all the wonderful work going on in production. That's huge, because a lot of people are like, I didn't know this was happening here. Or people just assume that we're at school. And I think it's a weird assumption, because not every institute that has blind in its name has to be just a school. And of course, ultimately, we do teach, but we also have a thriving company here that produces tons of goods for the state of Maryland and beyond, and that's important. So let's go back for a second. You mentioned going to college. Of course, you are a doctor. What colleges did you go to? What is your alma mater?
I have a bachelor's and a master's from the University of Connecticut, Yukon Huskies.
Go Huskies. Okay.
And a doctorate from Lehigh University. I think they're the engineers or the white and browns. I don't know. Go white and brown.
There you go. Someone's going to call you, alumni is going to call you like, what's going on? We're not the white and brown. And so you clearly had to advocate for yourself. How has that advocacy that you had to do in school to continue to develop in your chosen path academically led into your mission to push advocacy forward through BISM?
Does it have to have had an impact?
Well, does it? I mean, let me know.
I'm not sure. It may come as a surprise to you, but I'm not a big personal advocate. I struggled to have the conversation, partly because I wasn't comfortable with my blindness, right? I struggled with the conversation with my teachers.
Right.
I would use the Disabled Student Service Office to be my advocate a lot. So got to know your strengths and weaknesses here. Yeah. And I actually learned, I had a good representative there because she would push back on me. And she would say, Mike, you don't need that. You know how to cross the street. You know, you don't need your dorm to be on this side of the street. I said, okay, I was being lazy.
Yeah.
Eventually, we all grow up,
right?
Grow up in your personal life, in your family life, and grow up in your ability to be comfortable with your blindness. It's not an overnight thing for anybody. I know for people who lose their vision, it's a challenge. I grew up blind. Becoming aware of that I was blind and growing comfortable with that's a maturity change, and I think it took a while for me. Now, I am very comfortable advocating for somebody else, by the way.
Okay.
I will stand up and advocate all day long for somebody else. It's a challenge to do it personally, and it still is.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, because I actually really relate to that. Maybe not necessarily when it comes to blindness, but when you get into advocacy, you realize that it's not always about blindness. It doesn't have to be about one subset of your life. You're really advocating a lot throughout your life. And I've realized that while I will immediately advocate for anyone about anything, when it comes to myself personally and the things I need or how I'm feeling, I get leery about it. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. do I really need it, or like could I just go on without it? And
Could
so
I just do something else instead? Yeah.
yeah, exactly that. Could I just do something else instead? I'm blind. I also am partially deaf, and so teaching, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And I didn't know how to advocate for like my hearing loss and how to communicate well. And I was afraid to, because I was like, is that going to make me a liability for a team? Can I just work around it? Can I figure it out? Am I not smart enough because I can't figure it out? And I had wonderful mentors and role models that were here at BISM that were like, look, you got to embrace it, and you got to tell us what you need, and we'll make it happen. And you can be a wonderful teacher. You can be a wonderful part of this team, but you need to communicate. You need to advocate for yourself and recognize that you have needs too. And I took a minute. It was not an overnight thing, as you said. Yeah. But once I did, I realized, oh, this is important. This is easy to a certain degree. Easy in the sense that once you do it and you start having those conversations and you have constructive conversations, solutions come rather quickly, or at least you have the euphoria of knowing that you can work toward a solution.
And I think it's important that people understand, sighted, blind, I don't care, but you're not standing alone.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about mentors. I hope people don't think that as president, I don't have mentors still. I have peers that I rely on to help guide decisions, mentors who push me to do the next step, to be the next advocate. All those things are ongoing throughout the process of leadership of all kinds. And part of that maturity process is to understand that you can't do it alone. You will miss something. You will miss an opportunity, and you will not grow. You know, people say lifelong learning. This is part of lifelong learning.
Man, you're eating right now. Have you heard that turn of phrase before?
No, that's a new one for me. I'm getting hungry, though, so maybe I'll just imagine that I'm eating.
Yeah.
And I'll take care of my hunger.
Oh, so eating is, I guess it's Gen Z. I'm going to call it Gen Z slang. And it means that you're talking really inspiringly right now. Like I realized that I didn't know how to translate it until I had to. But it means the things that you're saying is really important, and it makes sense, and it's resonating. So good job. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad to have added to your vernacular.
Yeah, well, it's always good. I'll have to use that on my kids that are Gen Zers and see if they, Dad, where'd you come up with that one? I didn't know you knew that term. I always like the spill the tea conversations with the kids, you know.
Spill the tea.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. We'll create a new section right now. Spill the tea.
Spill the tea.
I heard that you like Pop-Tarts. Is this true?
Yes, this is very true.
Okay. So
I do not have a balanced breakfast every morning.
So what is your favorite Pop-Tart flavor?
I like strawberry unfrosted Pop-Tarts.
Unfrosted?
Yes.
Mike.
I know.
What are you doing?
Occasionally I'll have the blueberry unfrosted or the brown sugar cinnamon unfrosted. I don't like frosting on my Pop-Tarts.
Okay.
If you really want some tea, it's because I have a very delicate palate in my mouth, and I think the frosting just digs into the roof of my mouth too much. Really weird guy, right?
No. I've been given unfrosted Pop-Tarts, and I suffered through them. So
Suffered through them. I don't know.
No, Pop-Tarts are great. Have you ever had the Oreo one or the s'mores one?
No, they got frosting on the top.
Well, they don't make them unfrosted?
I don't think so.
Oh, man.
There's a very small selection of unfrosted Pop-Tarts that
we should protest
gravitate to.
We should advocate. We should advocate for
the
unfrosted Pop-Tarts.
The people who can't handle that crisp frosting on the top.
Awesome. So that was Spill the Tea, a new segment promoted by our wonderful president. Looking to expand your skills and gain independence? At Blind Industries and Services of Maryland, we offer a wide range of programs that are designed to empower individuals who are blind or have low vision. From our educational workshops to hands-on job readiness training, our goal is to help you thrive. Whether you're interested in our summer youth programs or career development opportunities, BISM is here to guide you every step of the way. Learn more about our programs by visiting our website at www.bism.org. Take the first step toward building your future with us. All right. So this year, 2024, it is crazy to say that it's almost over. What have we done this year, Mr. Prez? What has BISM done that you're really proud of?
We are successful every day here at BISM. What do you mean? You want me to pick one successful day out of the entire? We were in a position this year to send our entire ITR staff and students to the National Federation of the Blind Convention.
Yes.
I was able to take some of my senior staff there because, as I said earlier, until you experience the whole breadth of the blindness community, you're going to have struggles with the mission. At times you're going to not necessarily have all the information you need to make an informed, mission-driven solution. That was very exciting. We also, you never know where opportunities come from. We had an opportunity to have a segment on Maryland Public Television just in August, highlighting what we do with blind people in manufacturing. And one of our great associates, Eunice, who's been through the senior program and now makes a living sewing jackets for the military. That's a great story, and she was just an amazing representative of who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
When she was interviewed, it was really good to see. So there's lots of things we do every day. I think we're doing a great job getting out into the community. In the last year, we go to this Frederick Road Fridays event, and people see blind people serving them beverages at the event, and it changes some perspectives about blindness. If that would be in October, we could count it as one of our Blindness Awareness and Achievement Month events. Achievement and awareness. So we are doing good things every day, but when we can show our success within the blindness community, there's always an opportunity for BISM to impact more lives. Okay? And we may want the community as a whole to understand what we are and who we are and what we do, but it's more important to have the people in the blindness community know that there's a resource for them, because if they aren't taking that next step, if they're not doing the lifelong learning, if they're not planning what their goal in life is and using the resources of BISM, I think they're missing out on one of those partners.
Yeah.
So when I say we go to the NFB convention, we went to the state convention en masse this year as well, and just being there and having people know that the person sitting next to me found success at BISM, that we promoted blind people into jobs that they never thought was available to them before. Those are the successes we have at BISM right now.
Yeah. Man, upward mobility. We need a podcast on that one too. So hitting all the
upward and outward. I am just as happy to help somebody find a career out in other companies that aren't just devoted to blindness, but are just devoted to doing a good job and creating the skill set in that person to send them off to the great beyond the walls of BISM job.
Yeah.
I think that's a success always too.
Facts. It's another slang.
What?
Facts. Yeah. Yeah. Facts don't mean just facts anymore. Facts is like with an exclamation point. So yes, you're exactly right. Our work collaborating with the National Federation of the Blind is super powerful. Our ITR students and staff go down to Annapolis as well as to DC to do legislative advocacy, which is super important. And that's important because BISM approves of that. They support that. We are moving alongside them. We recognize the wonderful work they've done. They've changed both of our lives,
Absolutely,
and so many more lives here at BISM. Where we have so many members here at BISM that are a part of leadership. Mike mentioned the Baltimore County chapter that meets here. He sold it low, but they meet here. They have their chapter meetings here, and they're a part of our community. And many of our staff are very happy about that because it gives them the opportunity to come to the chapter meeting right after work and have celebrations with other blind people, learn about what's going on in the blind community.
I don't know how they do that after work. I'm pretty exhausted by the end of the day, and I know the efforts that they put in during the day. I'm impressed that they have the energy to create that environment for not only our associates here, but other blind people in the community who come in for that chapter meeting. That's just a nice perk for us to be part of.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, really is. And we enjoy it. So you talked about making sure that the leaders of the company know about blindness, understand blindness, and also putting people in positions where they can be in leadership positions. How else are we making sure that blind people that work here have a voice and that they're being heard?
We look for opportunities to change every position into an accessible position. One of our biggest challenges here is that the software we use every day for accounting, for project management, for sales in our base supply centers isn't accessible. And this is a huge problem. We are in the middle of a significant change in the software that we use here that will make every one of those positions have accessible software. What does that mean? All of a sudden, we should be looking at every person in our organization to see if there's a better opportunity for them. I will tell you that right now, there's a gap in the middle of our organization where there are no blind people working in those jobs because they can't be done by a blind person. Not because the blind person isn't capable, but because there's a barrier for them getting the job done. And we've actually had some people with rad skills who
Look at
who
you.
would, using those terms, rad skills who could do it, right? But they would be spending so much of their effort working around the inaccessible software that they wouldn't be successful in doing the actual job. And we're going to change that. And I hope maybe I can come back in a year when this is all in place and I can tell you the impact it's made and where we've opened up more opportunities than ever before. Even though we have that limitation right now, we are making strides to bring our blind associates greater opportunities. We just put another person in our sales department. My executive assistant is a blind person. Very important to me that we made sure that not only was the president blind, but his assistant was blind. That was an important thing for me. I haven't broken into accounting very much, and maybe it's just that accounting is boring. I'm not sure. But you go around the building and you say, hey, you want to be in accounting? And everybody's like, no, maybe not. But that's going to be an opportunity as well.
So talking about the National Federation of Blind, they have started a leadership program called the Kenneth Jernigan In-Service Leadership Program, and I'm a part of that program. And one of my fellow cohort members is an accountant, so maybe I'll have to persuade her to come over and join our accounting team. We can get our accountant. When she said she was an accountant, I was like,
okay, I take it back. Accounting isn't boring. It's really exciting stuff. Come on over. Be part of the team.
There it is. I'll make sure that she hears the pitch. We'll get her. All right. So when you think about your time as president so far, Mike, what is the funniest moment?
The funniest moment?
Yeah. Like, what was the moment you were like, wow, this is hilarious?
Really has nothing to do with being president, but we had done a job for Kevin Cross where we made his cane keepers here at BISM, which resulted in us having an interview on, I think it was WBAL. Ironically, I was wearing a BISM shirt that day because I think they just came in at the last minute and talked to us. And so we did the interview. And it goes, on TV and whatnot. And then a couple weeks later, I get in an Uber right outside the door here to go home. And the guy goes, I think I know you guys. Were you on TV? And I said, yeah, we were on TV. And he says, it was really funny because I saw that segment and I realized that Kevin Cross was the guy I went to high school with. And so I reached out to him and we've made a connection again after seeing you on television. So you never know really what's going to make a difference somewhere, right? I wouldn't necessarily call that a funny story. I think it's an ironic story. We have fun every day. I have to tell you that. If we're not having fun, we're doing something wrong. And sometimes that's where the president part comes in, right? You think everybody's having fun. You find out they're not. you got to go fix it.
What do you think one of the most impactful moments has been at your time at BISM, whether it's being a president or being a director of accessibility? Like, what has that looked like for you?
I don't isolate the moments, right? I am looking every day for the next impactful thing we do, every day. If you talk to the people that work with me every day, you know that I'm just as likely to come around the corner and say, we should think about trying this thing. And sometimes we do it, and sometimes we don't. There were a lot of little things when I first became president that I often say, just because you're doing it this way doesn't mean it's the right way. Just because you've been doing it for years. Making little changes in our structure that I think made a big impact to how people saw us all as one BISM. So I'm going to go with that. When we decided that we were going to be one BISM, that we decided that it didn't matter what plant you worked in, what store you worked in, that it was more important for us all to be pulling together than to be focusing on the success of that one particular part of BISM. And that has resonated, I think, throughout the organization. And if I could say the one impactful thing, and I don't think I was the one that came up with one BISM. I believe it came from somebody else, and I just grabbed onto it, and it spread. And that's what's important, because you can't have one BISM if only half of the group is saying, one BISM. And the other guys are saying, my store. It has spread, and that's because it resonated with the leadership team, and it's flowed down to everybody. And I believe that that has had more impact on our financial success than almost anything else. I would go to different facilities, and somebody would say, oh, yeah, well, we carried the company this month. Wait until next month, right? Because it is truly a one BISM, and there's not one department that can stand on its own.
Yeah.
I hate the word department because it really sounds like it's not one BISM. But
one BISM is very important to me. I actually say it a lot, which is funny because most times when I say it, talking to our students, and I'm like, yeah, we're one team. We're one organization. Everything that we do feeds into itself. We feed into each other. We help promote each other. When you are walking down the halls and you're learning how to travel, our associates know to let you grow and to work that out. And they're being supportive of you, even if you can't necessarily see it or they don't say it. They are there for you. They're happy to see the things that we're doing. And that's important because we do work together as one company. We are looking to have successes as BISM. And being united is something that is so crucial when you look at, the world, when you look at our country, when you look at everything, there's a lot of, division. There's a lot of divisiveness. And so when you have an organization that is as big as BISM is, and we can be so united, so together about our views and working toward the betterment of the things we're doing, you touched on making that middle of the company accessible, making it so that we can bring in more blind people, making it so that from top to bottom, from bottom to top, we are united in accessibility. We are working together. That's important.
And you really hit on the diversity of the organization, right? We have not just political diversity, age diversity, gender diversity, race diversity, language diversity. I think we have 17 different languages that are spoken at BISM.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and yet if we were to focus on the differences, even if it were a functional area that's different. One thing they do in this plant is they make paper pads, but they also sell military jackets. And if we think that the two don't impact each other and that we can't have opportunities working together, you're missing out. Yeah. And we do that across all that diversity. One of the first things I looked at was how diverse is my senior leadership team? I think it needs more blindness on it, but we're going to get there. But it's diverse in other ways as well. And I had the opportunity to speak to the Baltimore Business Journal about diversity and the fact that blindness doesn't discriminate, right? Right. The blindness doesn't say, well, we're just going to hit this group and we're not going to hit that other group. Yeah. Gives us a diverse pool to start with. We have access to all types of people. And taking that and just eliminating that from our conversation and saying, I'm looking for the best, this, that, or the other thing to step up to the next level. And by the way, they're going to be a blind person.
Yep. Yeah. That is important. Blindness does not discriminate.
Yeah, it's not at all.
So, all right, Mike, we've talked about BISM. We've talked about your time as president. First, I want to say that, again, you really are a wonderful president, and I hope to continue to have you as president for many, 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 many years. You got to hold it down until I'm ready.
You know, I listened to that podcast and I said, I don't know, who's it going to be? Ryan or Kwalik or Juhi? I don't know, but one of them could probably step up into my job someday easily.
It'll be Juhi, and Ryan will be the director of rehabilitation, and then I will be Juhi's executive assistant. There we go.
Okay.
I worked it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's other roles for you on the senior team, so we'll talk. We'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll find those skills that you need to work on, and we will make it happen.
There it is. But what about you? What do you do in your free time? What do people need to know about Mike to know that he's Mike?
Well, I'm a geek.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a term of. They still use geek these days?
It's not
Nerd,
a Gen Z
geek,
term.
whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you know the difference between a nerd and a geek? Because there technically is supposed to be a difference.
There is supposed to be a difference.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't remember the difference.
Yeah, I think nerds are book smart and geeks are tech smart. Is what it is.
Okay. So depending on what book smart you're looking for, I may have that.
There you go.
And what tech smart you're looking for, I may have that as well.
There you
So
go.
I may be both. It was kind of a derogatory term when I was a teenager. But in any event, I was one of them. And so very into science fiction, reading science fiction novels. I'm currently reading the Three Body Problem series. But I also am a bit of an athlete. I've done triathlons. I was a pole vaulter on the high school track team. Always been a runner. Tried to be a swimmer. But I'm always looking to stay fit and in shape. So those are kind of my hobbies, is what exercise am I doing today? Getting to read the books. I also, I do like sampling different bourbons. So that's
There you go. There you go.
I'm an adult. I can drink those and not be ashamed.
I love it. Okay, wait. So, have you played goalball?
I have not.
Oh, Mr. President, Mike, my heart hurts.
I know, because you've been part of the longest goalball game ever.
I have been.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, goalball is probably the best sport ever created, outside of maybe American football, but it's debatable. And it was created by veterans who had gone blind after World War II, and you have two goals, and there are two teams of three facing off against each other, and they are rolling a ball back and forth and blocking that ball from going into the goal with their bodies, their whole bodies, from toes to hands. They are trying to block the ball. I believe Paralympic athletes are usually clocked at throwing the ball at about 30 miles per hour or so. So it's not a slow game. It's very intense. It was fun watching the Paralympics. USA. Can't wait to see them. Hopefully, maybe I'll get to go in person in 2028.
Why aren't you on the team?
I love my job.
We could create space for this.
Yeah, I do play on the adult league teams, so I do love that. I've been secretly, but not so secretly, slowly, subtly convincing both Mike and Mark Riccobono, who's the president of the National Federation of Blind, to get this record broken. So in 2018, I played in the game where we set the record for the longest game of goalball for 25 hours and 30 seconds. So if I can get them united, we can do it again and go for 30 hours this time.
Can you drink coffee during the thing?
I drunk coffee. I drunk energy drinks. I drunk.
You need something to keep yourself going for 25 hours at anything.
It was a lot.
Except I think I've done 25 hours at a national convention without sleep. So.
Oh man, yeah, national conventions.
When I was younger.
Yeah, the national conventions. There's so much to do and so many people to see. So I've definitely done 25 hours too. I'm in that prime of my 25 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you have the mission to increase accessibility over the next year. Is there anything else that you're looking to see BISM do over the next year?
we need to diversify our contracts, the things that we do. And we have that same gap in contracting that we do in the management of the company. There aren't those middle-level type jobs that have opportunities with our direct labor, what we call direct labor, people who bill hours against work, direct labor. So service-type contracts that involve, sitting at a desk and performing technical tasks. We don't have any of those. I'd like to make sure that we have opportunities for people who aren't interested in sewing garments or making paper pads or making pillows. There's a broader opportunity for blind people to be productive than that. So I want to make sure that we can go after contracts like that. That's a challenge because it's not something we're currently doing. So we have to probably invest, probably take a little bit of risk, but also we're going to need the people with that skill set. So that's a bigger project. Also would like to have, quite honestly, we're a little low on entry-level skill projects, right? If you come in here and you can't sew, not as much opportunity, right? There ought to be a place where you can come in and have gainful employment right away, and then we can work on those skills to move you up into other opportunities. That's why we have an internal training department now. We didn't have that before. Anika is running that department. We wanted to bring the opportunity that students who come into ITR have to learn skills to all of our associates. Just because you needed a job right away doesn't mean you should forgo training in the skills of blindness. And that's important to me as well.
Yeah, that is very important. It pays off. I definitely have seen some of the workers who are getting those skills and learning about the non-visual training, and they're learning about how to use a cane, and they're learning about all the different apps and things that are out there for us to take advantage of, and so I'm very much excited to see where that goes and to see that diversification of the portfolio. I also think when we think about blind people, one of the most startling things is that blind people struggle to get employed. We're talking about the blind people who want to be employed.
Right.
And so that is important because BISM is making efforts to eliminate some of that. But I think it's also important because you're speaking to how blind people are capable. And hopefully those of you who are out there listening who have companies, who have businesses, you're recognizing that blind people are very much able, very much capable, and deserve a shot. One thing I was super excited about, and if you listen to episode 2, you would know this, our youth students got to go out and work in the community. They weren't working at BISM facilities. They were working at real jobs with real people and doing real work. And that is important. And many of those students got job offers to come back on and work full time. Sadly, they are students, so not sadly, education is important. But to know that they did such a great job and that they had made such a good impression, I think there are tons of blind people out there that can do the same thing if they're just given a chance. I'm really excited to see what we can do to continue that mission. We are getting to the end of our interview. It has been wonderful talking to you. I've gotten to learn more about you and gotten to share laughs with you, and that's always important to me. And you really do feel like one of my coworkers. You don't feel like my boss. Hopefully I'll be on the next podcast after saying that. I'm joking. What I mean by that, though, is that it creates a level of humanness that is important for any leader to have, because it means that I know that I can come to you and talk to you and share and advocate to you, especially knowing that we both have that shared experience of struggling to personally advocate for ourselves in different areas, and knowing that we both fiercely are advocates for others and value that. So it was honestly wonderful to learn that about you. So do you have anything that you want to let the audience know, the final message that you want to send them off with?
I have my new philosophy. It came to me one day that I'm not a glass half full, glass empty person. The glass can be refilled, and that's what BISM is doing right now. We're making sure that no matter where things stand today, we're here to make it better. And that's all part of one BISM. It's better for everybody. It's better for the blindness community. If we're not meeting that mission, You got to let us know where we're failing, because I'm not going to sit on my laurels here. What you see of BISM today is just the opportunity to be bigger and better and more impactful. That's where we are. That's who we are.
Well, thank you, Mike. That was powerful. And on that note, that is all. Thank you again so much for coming. This has been episode 3 of the Beyond Sight podcast. Thank you for listening. Are you a business or organization looking to support a mission that makes an impact? Partner with BISM and show your commitment to inclusion and accessibility through corporate sponsorships, event partnerships, or in-kind support. Your involvement can help us provide life-changing programs for individuals who are blind or have low vision. Together, we can break down barriers and create opportunities. Learn more about how your business can get involved. Visit bism.org/partners or reach out to our development team directly at partnerships@bism.org. Thank you.